Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, while the price of Bitcoin is continuing the bounce from this level of support, we are also now running into this crucial area of resistance. But in the immediate short term, the price of Bitcoin is getting extremely close to possibly breaking out very soon above this short-term level of resistance, as we're continuing to push into this area of resistance, as we now have new liquidity building just above the price of Bitcoin, which we need to pay attention to. So I'll be talking about that in just a moment, alongside Ethereum, which is also now bouncing into this significant area of resistance, while the price of XRP is continuing to play out this oversold signal. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, starting off on the weekly Bitcoin price chart, and the super trend indicator is still sitting in the red. And on this weekly Bitcoin price chart, we still have a massive bearish divergence playing out. So keep in mind, over the last few days, not much has changed on the larger timeframes, but obviously it is worth pointing out that the weekly Bitcoin RSI is now starting to enter into oversold territories for the first time in multiple years. Since the middle of 2022 is the last time we saw an oversold signal in the weekly Bitcoin RSI. So just keep that in mind. But also keep in mind that this is not necessarily a bottom signal. It is possible that we can go lower later on. But if we're taking a look at the 3-day Bitcoin price chart, obviously in the shorter term, we're very much playing out this oversold signal right now, and also obviously continuing the bounce from pretty much exactly $60,000. So obviously we do have a lot of support sitting at 60,000, also based on that being a psychological level on the price chart, just a big round number. But below that level, I would also expect a lot of support in between around 53 to 56,000 if the price were to actually get to those levels. But like I've already been explaining over the last couple of days, right after this flash crash happened, I said this is now likely the local low in place for the price of Bitcoin. Once again, not necessarily the bottom. I can't guarantee anything. I can't say that the price will never go lower than this point ever, but at least over the next few days or possibly weeks, we'll likely hold above 60,000. This will likely be some sort of local low now put in place, is what I've already been saying over the last few days, which means expect either a bit more of a bullish relief or maybe just a bit of a sideways consolidation, chopping around sideways, basically having a bit of a break or a relief from all of this bearish price action, at least in the shorter term here. And so overall, that's still my prediction for the next few days or possibly weeks, but obviously we need to be aware of resistance to watch out for along the way towards the upside, where the price could start to struggle at or possibly reject from. And we're already seeing exactly this with the latest bounce. Obviously, as soon as we approached close to 72,000, which is my exact area of resistance here, where it's starting at around 72,000 to 76,000, expect a lot of resistance in that area, which so far we're seeing exactly that. And if we're zooming into the much shorter term, taking a look at the 2-hour Bitcoin price chart, we can clearly see a key level of resistance, at least in the short term, where we've seen multiple perfect rejections from this exact level of resistance here. And this level is sitting at pretty much exactly 71.7k, so just under 72,000. We do have a lot of resistance right there, obviously here in the shorter term. And of course, once again, we're playing out an oversold signal, resetting an RSI, and we're not yet back into overbought, even in the short term on the smaller time frames. Here on the 2-hour chart, obviously we're not in overbought, which means it is possible that we could continue a little bit more of a bullish relief. But obviously in the immediate short term, we are being stopped by this level of resistance. But if the price of Bitcoin starts to break out above roughly 72,000, then it's quite likely we'll see just a shorter term bullish move up towards some slightly higher price targets. The immediate target that I'll be watching would be at roughly around 74,500 if we break out above 72,000. And then if we break out beyond 74,500 to 75,000, in that situation, it's possible we could see a move up towards closer towards around 78 to 79,000. And overall, at least in the shorter term here on the 2-hour time frame, technically speaking, this is starting to form some bullish price structure. Remember, understand the difference between the different time frames. This is a very small time frame, talking about shorter term moves that play out over hours or days. Remember, this is very different from the much larger time frames like the weekly chart, which talks about multiple months, talking about the bigger picture, the longer term situation. So once again, understand the difference between between the different time frames, but in the short term on the very small time frames like this 2-hour chart right here, overall, yes, this is starting to form some bullish price structure because we're clearly seeing higher lows while we're seeing relatively horizontal resistance. In other words, we're seeing a lot of buyers now pushing up the price in the short term into basically a stagnant sell pressure. Basically, the bears right now are running out of steam. And of course, the oversold signal is an indication of that. It means that we've already played out a lot of the sell pressure, at least in the short term once again. So we now need some time to just reset and have a bit of a relief before it is possible that maybe in a couple of weeks from now, we gather more bearish momentum, more sell pressure later on. But just in the shorter term, essentially a lot of the sell pressure has been exhausted and we're now playing out a bit of a relief. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, we can see that looking at the last 1 week worth of price action, we have a new level of liquidity building just above the price of Bitcoin at around 72,000 to 72.1k. So obviously just above this level of resistance. And now, as always, there's no such thing as a 100% guarantee, but usually the price of Bitcoin tends to move towards where we have a lot of liquidity to wipe out that liquidity, especially if it's pretty close to the price of Bitcoin. So obviously this signal right here suggests that in the short term, it is quite likely that at some stage in the coming hours or days, we will likely hit that level to wipe out that liquidity. And if or when that eventually happens here in the short term, it's then important for the price of Bitcoin to actually hold above this level to keep that short-term breakout active. Obviously, if we just move towards the upside to hit that liquidity and then see a quick move back below around 71 to 72,000, in that situation, it will simply just a liquidity grab and we've seen a fake out, basically a failed breakout. And so once again, it is quite likely that either way, we will likely hit this level at close to 72.1k, give or take, to wipe out that liquidity. And then once again, as I just said, in order to avoid the fake out scenario, we actually need to then hold above this level at roughly 71.6 to 71.7k to keep that short-term breakout active and head up towards those next price targets that I mentioned earlier. And so those are my expectations in the shorter term and the key levels and signals to watch out for. And obviously that's a possible trading opportunity, not financial advice, but just sharing potentially what I'll be looking at doing myself with a possible short-term breakout opportunity here. And of course, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of Bitcoin or any crypto, you need to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange either way. And if you use the first link below this video in the description and in the pinned comment, the first link below this video will take you to this page right here over on the BTNX crypto exchange, which by the way is a no KYC exchange. And as you can see right here on this page, there's an exclusive prize pool of up to 50,000 USDT. In other words, simply just by trading crypto using the link below the video, you can take advantage of major prizes here just by trading crypto using that link. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out and take advantage of this extra bonuses right here. Once again, using that first link below the video to BTNX. And remember, BTNX is also a no KYC exchange. But if you want another option out there, another exchange that I also use myself, which is also a no KYC exchange, then in that situation, check out the second link below the video in the description and in the pinned comment, because the second link below the video will take you to this page right here over on the 2bit crypto exchange, which just recently partnered with La Liga. So to celebrate this partnership, there's currently for a limited time an 800,000 USD prize pool here just by simply trading crypto using the second link below the video to 2bit. And so once again, if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out and take advantage of this. Once again, second link below this video. And remember, 2bit is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a quick look at the Bitcoin dominance chart on the daily time frame, and obviously in the shorter term, we're playing out another short-term bounce after that previous short-term pullback. But overall, we're still just pretty much bouncing around relatively sideways on the price chart in still a bit of a sideways price range. So overall, this sideways price range is telling us that a lot of the major altcoins out there on average will likely be performing very similar to whatever Bitcoin is doing. So we're not necessarily in a massive Bitcoin Bitcoin season or an altcoin season. We're basically just seeing a lot of correlation right now across the crypto market. And if we're taking a look at Ethereum on the 3-day time frame, right now the price of ETH is obviously still in this massive sideways price range between this area of support and this area of resistance based on previous support flipping into new resistance. First of all, we have significant support in between 1.5k to 1.6k and significant resistance here, once again based on previous support now acting as resistance in between 2.2k to 2.4k. So watch out for that area as we continue this short-term bullish relief. And of course, we're also playing out this oversold signal in the 3-day Ethereum RSI, telling us that we're most likely going to play out either a bit more of a bounce, a bit more of a short-term bullish relief, or at worst, maybe just some choppy sideways price action in the coming days or possibly weeks. Remember, this is more of a shorter term signal and does not guarantee that we've ended the larger bearish trend. And if we're taking a look at the daily Ethereum price chart, we can see that right now the price of ETH is obviously continuing the pretty much perfect bounce from this exact Fibonacci level of support sitting at around 1.8k. So continue to expect a lot of support at around 1,800 if the price were to actually get back to those levels. And as for resistance, we're very close to now testing this previous Fibonacci area of support, now acting as new resistance, sitting in between around 2150 to 2250. And obviously right now the daily Ethereum RSI is only just exiting oversold territory, so we're only really just beginning to reset the RSI out of oversold, which means it is quite likely that in the coming days we'll continue either a little bit more of a bullish relief, or perhaps as we start to enter into this resistance, maybe we start to play out some sideways price action as the price begins to struggle around this resistance. But obviously, as I mentioned earlier, really just expect very similar price action for Ethereum and a lot of these major altcoins as to what Bitcoin is doing. So definitely pay attention to my Bitcoin analysis to figure out what is likely going to happen for a lot of these major altcoins. And so with that being said, taking a look at XRP on the weekly time frame, and here on the much larger time frames, not a lot has changed over the last one day. We're still not in the clear yet when we're talking about the longer term trends, the larger bearish trend. And so at least for now, despite getting very close to oversold in the weekly XRP RSI, we're not there just yet, and we still actively have a bearish divergence playing out on the weekly time frame. So just keep that in mind when we're talking about a period of multiple months. We're still once again not looking too good, but remember that's different from the short-term situation. We can see short-term bounces and short-term bullish reliefs along the way towards the downside during the larger bearish move. But as for support and resistance to watch out for on the weekly time frame, of course, we bounced from pretty much exactly this previous 50% retracement level, sitting at around $1.12 to $1.13. And below that, I would also expect a lot of support in between 90 cents to $1, and also more support right now in between $1.30 to $1.40 based on this golden pocket here. And as for resistance, I would expect a lot of resistance at give or take $1.60 if the price actually tests that level. And if we're zooming into the 3-day XRP price chart, obviously we're perfectly playing out, at least in the shorter term, an oversold signal in the 3-day XRP RSI for the first time since July 2024. So obviously it's been quite a while since we've seen an oversold signal on the 3-day XRP RSI. And what happened last time we saw this signal confirm? Yes, we did see at least a shorter term bounce, a short-term bullish relief as a very likely scenario. Remember, this is not always a bottom signal. It is possible that we can go lower later on. I'm not saying that's guaranteed or anything. I'm just saying we need to understand that that's still a possible scenario, still a potential risk that we need to consider, considering we've not yet confirmed the reversal or the end of this larger bearish trend. But at least if we're talking about the next few days or possibly the next 1 or 2 weeks, that sort of time frame, yes, it is quite likely we'll play out either a little bit more of a shorter term bullish relief, or maybe just some choppy sideways price action, just playing out a bit of a break or a relief from all of this bearish price action in the shorter term is quite likely in the coming days or possibly weeks. And so overall, that's still my prediction right now for XRP in the shorter term. And of course, the bigger picture not changing all that much over the last one day. So if we're taking a look at Solana on the 3-day time frame, and obviously right now, if we're talking about the much larger trends, the longer term trends that we're in, we've not yet confirmed a reversal or an end of the larger bearish trend. But once again, in the short term here on the 3-day Solana RSI, even after this latest little bounce right here, we're still sitting in oversold. We haven't even left oversold yet in the 3-day 3-day Solana RSI. And so obviously this signal, as usual, tells us that we're likely going to see a bit of a reset in the RSI in the coming days or possibly weeks, considering this is the 3-day time frame. Each one of these candles is 3 entire days, which most likely will mean either a little bit more of a short-term bullish relief or maybe just some choppy sideways price action in the coming days or possibly weeks to reset this RSI out of oversold back towards more neutral levels, which can technically give us more room towards the downside later on. So keep that in mind. And as for support and resistance to watch out for, expect a lot of support in this area in between around $75 to $80 and a lot of resistance in between around $95 to $105. So it is actually quite likely that for the next few days, we'll basically be within that price range in between that support and that resistance. And if we're taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the 3-day time frame, it's a somewhat similar situation for Chainlink. Obviously, the larger or longer term trend is still technically bearish. We've not yet confirmed the end of this larger bearish trend, but at least in the short term, just like what I've been saying throughout the video, we've hit obviously oversold in the 3-day Chainlink RSI, telling us that at least in the short term for the next few days or possibly weeks, yes, it is quite likely we're going to play out either a bit more of a short-term bullish relief, a bit more of a bounce, or potentially just a bit of choppy sideways price action, consolidating sideways in the shorter term during this larger bearish trend. And as for support and resistance to watch out for, expect a lot of support in between roughly $8 to $8.50, especially around that $8 level. That's a key level of support to watch out for. And as for resistance, expect a lot of resistance in between roughly $9.50 to $10. And remember, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of any crypto, get set up ready to go using those links below this video to those exchanges if you want to take advantage of extra bonuses only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can trade crypto no matter what the price is doing, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen, because the video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.